Can you describe your position in the field of education technology?
I have several different positions. I am first and foremost a teacher, and I use technology through the course of my teaching with my elementary students. I also work part-time for the university in a couple different roles. I have worked as an instructional designer, but I am also an educational technologist, and I'm working on a project for the College of Education right now.
How did you choose this career?
I have always been very technologically driven. I know I'm not one of the what they would call digital natives. I'm a little older than most of my peers that I went through grad school with, but I have been using technology in my classroom since I started teaching 25 years ago. I've incorporated it both into my productivity and to my students' learning and how I learn and how I teach them. And so when I decided to go back to school, it was an easy choice.
How long have you been in the educational technology field?
I got my master's degree in 2009. So I've been using technology since I started teaching, like I said, 25 years ago, but formally I got my master's degree just a few years ago.
And what are your primary job responsibilities?
Well, I have to see that my students have mastered their grade level learning standards, and how I do that is pretty much up to me. So I incorporate technology any step that I can. It's very engaging for students to both learn through technology and with technology and be able to demonstrate their learning using technology. I also use technology in the course of my work through productivity software, and I also use technology as an instructional designer and technologist, primarily building online communities.
What are the important skills and expertise necessary for your role?
You have to be willing to be experimental and try things out, even if you have a pretty good foresight that it may not work with the group you're trying it with. It really does. It's very important to attempt things and be willing to fail on occasion in order to see what ultimately does work and what works best. I also had to come to the realization that I would not be the expert on technology in my classroom anymore. My 8-year-olds have a lot of technology know-how, and even if they don't have a specific skill, they have a mindset that the technology can be utilized for whatever tasks they're trying to accomplish. And so one of the things that was kind of a shift in how I viewed using technology was that I wasn't going to be the expert, that I was going to open it up to kids and let them figure it out and then teach me. And usually that's how it works, and it's been a really great eye-opening experience to do that.
How did you get to your current position as far as training and responsibilities?
I have had several different positions, and so I worked as an instructional designer for 5 years with the Bush School, building graduate online courses. That experience actually came from my degree internship, which is what I did, and that led me to discover that I really did like that whole online learning community process of designing it, building it, maintaining it, troubleshooting it. And so using that skill set has really been what has driven me to seek out other positions similar to that. It's really amazing if you look at job sites anywhere, higher ed jobs, even the A&M website, there are positions that utilize instructional technology everywhere, and they are always coming open. There's positions not just in higher ed, but corporate America, because as you know, budgets gets tighter and tighter, a lot of ways that corporations will try to reduce their budgets is by providing training in an online environment as opposed to flying people to a centralized location to provide that training. And so it's a field that's just expanding like crazy, and those positions are out there.
What are the educational requirements and your personal education experience?
I don't think you have to have a formal degree, but I think getting my formal degree in educational technology really did open my eyes to a lot of possibilities that I hadn't previously considered. Having been in education for almost 20 years at the point that I got my degree, I kind of limited myself, and I did not necessarily need to do that. And so getting this degree and learning the ins and outs of how technology affects us, not just in education but elsewhere, but it really was an experience that broadened my horizons. The skill set that I got with my degree formalized what I needed to seek out those positions.
What are your personal areas of expertise?
Well, I've done a lot of work with online courses, and so using learning management systems and designing both courses and just learning communities is really my area of expertise, in addition to utilizing technology in my classroom with my young students.
What are your day-to-day responsibilities?
Well, I teach every day, and so utilizing the technology I have available to me is it's a challenge, because I'm actually in a school that is one of the most technologically advanced schools that is in the area. It's a fairly new school. I cannot utilize all the technology that I have on a day-to-day basis, so it's really a challenge. And so trying to continue to incorporate new techniques, incorporate utilizing equipment that I hadn't ever tried before is a challenge, and not always one that I have to do. I like to continue to try things, and so it's a challenge to see what I can make work for any given learning standard that my students need to master.
How did you choose this field?
It kind of chose me.
Okay.
I've always been fascinated by technology and using computers. When I was in school myself, the emphasis wasn't on using computers to learn. It was in programming. And so I didn't have that interest when I was in high school or even college. It was all programming, and I knew I wasn't going in that direction. But once that shift occurred where computer education became more about utilizing the affordances that computers give us, it really is, it was an easy pick for me.
How do you stay up to date?
That's one of my biggest challenges. When I left my position with the Bush School, that was my biggest fear, is that the technology would pass me by and that I wouldn't have access to changes in learning management systems or new technologies that are coming about. And so I have to actively keep myself engaged. And so I'm seeking out those positions that are able to fit with my teaching position. And so I work evenings, and, a lot of times those positions are things that you can do remotely. So I do have a part-time position right now in addition to my teaching that keeps me engaged in the technology. I do subscribe to different websites and different listservs to stay engaged. I'm part of an online course and instructional designer group here at A&M. They, have a monthly meeting that they do that keeps me engaged and interacting with other professionals in the field.
How does your role evolve over time?
Well, it evolves as different opportunities open themselves to me. I am not at the end of my teaching career, but I'm probably within 5 to 10 years from the end of my teaching career, and I can foresee myself in the future, utilizing my graduate work and my graduate skill set to continue doing temporary projects as I am in my retirement, whether they're, part-time in different locations where I travel there and live for a short time period, or doing remote work. I find it very interesting to work with different entities, and so I see myself doing that as time goes on.
How do you integrate media into your profession?
Well, I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. I have a lot of opportunities in my teaching position to incorporate media, and the biggest challenge I have is not to incorporate media, but getting students to incorporate media and produce media in their work. And so it's kind of a lengthy, time-consuming process, because students have so many options when they are, creating something that is just it eats up time.
How do you assess success? Are there any standard methods to determine effectiveness?
There are standards. You may have heard of the Quality Matters process for evaluating online courses, and since that's been my focus, that's those standards of best practices for online courses have really guided how I design things and how I structure the communities and the courses that I've produced in learning management systems. In terms of how I incorporate technology with my own students, it's their level of learning, their level of achievement, and whether or not they have a positive experience in their learning.
What are some pros and cons of your career?
Pros, I absolutely love my content. I love being able to incorporate technology into what I do every day. Cons, I probably waited a little bit long to get my graduate degree, and so it's one of those things that I can't step away from my full teaching career to go full-time into instructional designing. So I would love to be able to, but I wouldn't be able to do that at this point.
How do you balance your time between work and private life?
That's a challenge, because when you teach full-time and then you do extra projects, it's a challenge. I try to limit my home activities, whether it's working remotely, to just a couple hours a night. And so I have to really stick to that. You get to a point, though, when you do use computers a lot and you work on computers, you don't tend to want to use computers for fun anymore. Although I do on occasion, but I do have to force myself to turn off the machine and step away. So.
What are the working conditions of your job?
I have excellent working conditions. I love the school that I teach at. The projects that I'm working on, instructional technology projects, most of the time are remote, and so I have very good working conditions. I'm supported in what I like to do. I have great administrative support. So,
how do you see the future of this career?
This area of expertise is only growing. I see expansion of online education. It used to only be, undergrad and graduate levels, and it's dropped down to even elementary level education now. And so it's only expanding, incorporating technology into human resource and staff development is just growing. So the area, the field is only going to get bigger.
Do you have any recommendations for people who are planning to enter this career?
I would say that people entering this career, this area, need to go in with a very open mind. Being able to have an idea of what you like to do, but also being open to different fields, because, as I said, it's only growing, and so some of the positions that will be available in the future probably don't even exist right now. And so you just have to be open to opportunity.
Awesome.